a massive earthquake rocks the Pacific Northwest. Buildings shake, roads crack open, and the power goes out. But the real horror hasn't even begun. Within 15 minutes, a wall of water 700 miles wide is rushing toward the coast, moving faster than you can imagine. Why 700 miles wide? That's the extension of the Cascadia subduction zone, the fault line that could unleash the biggest tragedy in North American history. Yeah, this isn't a movie or some distant hypothetical. It's the terrifying reality of what experts predict could happen to areas like Washington, Oregon, and Canada's Vancouver Island if a mega tsunami strikes. But even when they're not gigantic, tsunamis are some of the deadliest natural disasters on Earth. Not only can they reach insane heights, they also surge inland with relentless force, carrying debris, leveling structures, and sweeping up everything in their path. They cause drowning and destruction, while also leaving disease in their wake. And the aftermath? Often it's a shattered landscape and shattered lives. So how do you survive something as powerful as a tsunami? What should you do if you're caught in its path? Today we'll dive into real stories from tsunami survivors and use their experiences to help you prepare. What's the world record for the highest tsunami wave? How fast can a tsunami travel? And which US state is at the highest risk of facing a tsunami? We'll get to that in a second. For now, hit that subscribe button to stay on top of the deadliest disasters. To understand how to survive a tsunami, we first need to know what we're dealing with. The word tsunami is Japanese, meaning harbor wave, and that name is fitting. These giant waves form in open water, often due to underwater earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or devastating landslides. When the ocean floor shifts, it displaces water above it, creating waves that travel across the sea with immense energy, only to slow and grow in height as they near the shore. Tsunamis are deceptive. In deep water, they can move at speeds up to 500 miles per hour. That's as fast as a commercial jet. Except, unlike regular waves, which lose energy quickly, tsunamis maintain their force across entire oceans. When they finally reach land, they rise into monstrous walls of water that can flood miles inland. History has shown us just how powerful and deadly these waves can be. Take the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, also known as the Boxing Day tsunami. Triggered by a 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Sumatra, it generated waves as high as 100 feet, devastating Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India. Over 230,000 people lost their lives. And then there was Japan's 2011 tsunami, which followed a colossal earthquake. It resulted in 18,000 deaths and led to a nuclear disaster in Fukushima. Among this tragedy, though, are stories of survival, bravery, and the human instinct to endure against all odds. We'll learn what it takes to survive these terrifying walls of water. And it won't matter if you're a strong swimmer or not. The Boxing Day tsunami of 2004 was one of the deadliest in history. When the earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra, it unleashed a powerful wave that traveled across the Indian Ocean. Many who survived did so thanks not only to quick thinking, but also sheer luck. Maria Bilan was vacationing with her family in Thailand when her life changed forever. She described hearing an unearthly roar just before the tsunami struck. Within seconds, she was swept up by a torrent of water, separated from her family. She was submerged for long periods, repeatedly slammed against debris with absolutely no control over her body or her surroundings. This led to life-threatening injuries, including a punctured chest and deep wounds in her leg. After resurfacing and battling against exhaustion, Maria miraculously spotted her eldest son, Lucas, trying desperately to keep afloat. The two managed to climb a tree to escape the floodwaters and waited for rescue. They were eventually found by locals and taken to a nearby hospital. There, Maria was reunited with her husband and two younger sons, who had also miraculously survived the tsunami. If this story sounds familiar, it's because it inspired the 2012 film The Impossible, in which Naomi Watts portrayed Maria. Her story shows the importance of finding something, anything, stable to cling to if you're caught in the water, and to not give up even when everything seems lost. Also, if you hear a loud roaring sound coming from the ocean, like Maria did, it's time to get to high ground as quickly as possible. This is by far the deadliest tsunami to hit Indonesia, with over 170,000 casualties. But it wouldn't be the last one. In September 2018, a 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck Palu, Indonesia's largest city of the central Sulawesi province. It triggered a tsunami and a terrifying phenomenon known as liquefaction, where soil mixes with water, creating a sea of mud that swallows everything in its path. Mulus Ipul was home with his wife and 2 young daughters, aged 7 and 5, when the earthquake struck. The shaking was so violent that the asphalt split apart beneath his feet as he and his family ran out of their house. Before they could escape, the earth opened up. Mulus fell into the cracks, losing hold of his 5-year-old daughter. His wife and children were swept away in the mud as he lay trapped beneath the broken asphalt. The ground churned and twisted, burying Mulus in mud. He heard the desperate screams of others nearby, but couldn't move. Petobo, a group of villages home to 7,000 people, was obliterated. Suddenly, the mud beneath him exploded upward, freeing him. He grabbed onto a cable and let the rushing mud carry him to safety. Eventually, he found himself on top of a small hill, injured but alive. He waited there, hoping to hear the cries of his family, but he would never see them again. There's a key piece of information that is relevant to this tragedy. Petobo was scattered across reclaimed swampland, making it vulnerable to liquefaction. For countries where cities are overpopulated, sometimes building on unsteady land is done out of necessity and not by choice. But if you have the chance, research geological risks before settling in any area, especially in earthquake-prone regions. Another takeaway is to hold on to sturdy or buoyant objects in mudslides or flood situations to keep yourself above ground. The destruction of Petobo was made by waves about 18 feet tall. This goes to show that a tsunami doesn't have to be gigantic to cause tremendous damage. Now, if you're wondering about the biggest wave created by a tsunami, it happened in Lituya Bay, Alaska in 1958. This rockfall tsunami hit a world record height of 1,720 feet. Bigger doesn't always mean deadlier though. Let's bring it back to one that is still fresh in our memories. The 2011 tsunami mentioned earlier in this episode that struck Japan was catastrophic, with waves reaching up to 133 feet in some areas. It destroyed entire towns and caused 3 nuclear reactors to release radiation into the environment. On March 11, 2011, Akiko Iwasaki, a 54-year-old innkeeper, was going about her day in the coastal town of Kamaishi, Japan. At 2:46 p.m., the ground shook violently beneath her as a 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck. Like many others, Akiko understood an unspoken warning: a tsunami would follow. She instantly went to get her mother and daughter, who were on the 2nd floor of a house next to her small hotel. Akiko alerted her guests and took them to the parking lot outside. Knowing the risks of staying too close to the coastline, she hurried toward higher ground. She made it to a safe zone up the mountain with a small group. Then, she realized there were still many people in the parking lot. She remembered her grandmother's words: "Those who go back never come back again." But at this point, her big heart and desire to help people were stronger than her common sense. She headed back with some of the hotel staff and convinced more people to climb up the mountain. That's when she noticed the water level was rising sooner than anticipated. She started running back to the mountain. When she thought she was reaching the safe zone, Akiko was swept off her feet as the growing wave overtook her. She found herself looking at the blue sky for a moment, then everything turned black. Debris swirled around her, turning the water into a deadly mixture of sharp objects, vehicles, and mud. In the chaos, Akiko desperately tried to grab onto anything she could find to stay afloat. When she reached out of the water, a woman from the hotel staff grabbed her hand. Fearing her potential rescuer's arm might break, Akiko let her go and ended up next to the hotel bus. The water went calm and they rushed to climb on top of the bus before another wave came. They managed to jump from the roof of the bus to the mountain and climb to safety. Akiko's awareness of her location and emergency protocol were determining factors in their survival. She knew where to go because of regular drills and immediately headed for higher ground with others. If more people were aware of the danger of staying in the parking lot, she wouldn't have had to go back to save them. Luckily, it all worked out for her. Organized evacuations save lives. If you can, help others reach safety as well. Survivors were resilient in all the events we saw today, even when everything seemed lost. Each tsunami is different, but the lessons learned from them are often the same. Whether you are in Japan, Indonesia, or the United States, preparation and quick acting are key. In the US, Hawaii has the highest risk of being hit by a tsunami, followed by Alaska and the West Coast. But if you live in a coastal area, no matter the country, you should always be informed about emergency and evacuation plans. That's also true if you live near a dam, where a landslide could generate crushing waves that can obliterate a town in seconds. By now you might be thinking, it's 2025, there must be some technological advances to help us save lives in these situations. Well, there are, and they're getting better every year. Take tsunameters, for example. That's a great name, by the way. These devices are stationed deep on the ocean floor and are able to detect even the slightest changes in water pressure caused by undersea earthquakes or landslides. Once a potential tsunami is detected, tsunameters send critical data to monitoring centers via satellite. This early warning system is a game changer, providing coastal communities with precious minutes or even hours to evacuate to safety before the waves strike. But what if you don't have enough time to get to higher ground? That's where tsunami survival capsules come in. Yeah, remember the Dragon Ball capsules? The same company actually built them. These futuristic, portable shelters are built to withstand the crushing force of tsunami waves and the debris they carry. They offer a secure option for those unable to evacuate in time, and you could get them for up to 10 people. The cheapest one is around $15,000, so you might want to start saving. Another futuristic way to prepare ourselves to face tsunamis is through virtual reality simulators. These cutting-edge training tools immerse people in realistic tsunami scenarios, teaching them how to react in real time. VR helps people build muscle memory and quick thinking, which are necessary to survive under pressure. It can also be customized to help you choose the fastest evacuation routes and identify safe locations. What stands out even more than all these advancements is the survivors we witnessed today, who made it out alive through sheer strength of will and determination, minus any of this futuristic assistance. Would you be able to face these mammoth phenomena and make it out alive? First, you'll need to understand the true scale of these waves.
Imagine an immense wall of water crashing into the skyline of New York City, the iconic bridges of London, and the sprawling cityscape of Los Angeles. The unimaginable chaos, destruction, and sheer power of nature unleashed upon these bustling urban centers. While this catastrophe scenario hasn't played out in reality for these great cities, the reality is, tsunamis of colossal proportions do exist. They've struck other corners of the globe, leaving behind stories of survival, rebuilding, and resilience. Today, we're comparing the true scale of the most enormous tsunamis in history. Which one of these disasters happened inland instead of on the ocean? And how did two fishermen survive a wave over 500 meters high? Well, keep watching to find out, and subscribe to our channel for more great survival content. Our journey begins on July 28, 1976, with a powerful earthquake in the Bohai Sea near Tangshan, China. The seismic activity triggered a tsunami with waves about 10 meters tall. The quake itself resulted in an estimated 242,000 fatalities, making it one of the deadliest in recorded history. The disaster exposed vulnerabilities in the country's infrastructure and emergency response capabilities. But the city rebuilt itself, incorporating the lessons learned from that fateful day. Next, our list takes us further back in time to the Cascadia tsunami of 1700. A megathrust earthquake along the Cascadia subduction zone produced waves that were 26 meters tall. They had a severe impact on indigenous populations in the Pacific Northwest, from Vancouver Island to Northern California. Damage caused by the Cascadia tsunami was extensive, to say the least. It reshaped the topography of the coastal regions it slammed into. Forests were stripped away, and the powerful surges of water inundated low-lying areas, traveling several kilometers inland in some places. Long before scientific instruments and seismographs, indigenous oral traditions spoke of a time when the very earth beneath their feet trembled and the water rose in a tumultuous dance. Scientific studies have drawn the same conclusions, reminding us that multiple lenses can be used to fully view the stories of our shared history. As for survival tips, well, it's important to know the natural warning signs, such as strong ground shaking, and have an evacuation plan in place when in coastal areas. Okay, fast forward now to 2004, when the Indian Ocean tsunami shook the world. Triggered by a massive undersea earthquake, the devastation this tsunami caused was widespread. The death toll exceeded 230,000 people across multiple countries. The sheer scale of this tsunami was unprecedented. Waves, some towering up to 30 meters, surged across the Indian Ocean, striking the coastal regions of multiple countries, including Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India. Entire coastal communities were swallowed by the relentless waves, and bustling tourist destinations became scenes of unimaginable devastation. The destruction extended beyond the immediate impact zone. Infrastructure crumbled, leaving behind the ruins of homes, schools, and vital facilities. If you're near the coast and you feel an earthquake that lasts more than 20 seconds, evacuate to higher ground immediately. Heading to Japan in 2011, we confront our most recent entry. The Tohoku tsunami, with waves reaching heights over 40 meters, slammed into the east coast of Honshu with unrelenting fury. The damage from these massive waves was both profound and far-reaching. Entire coastal communities were obliterated, and the urban landscapes of cities like Sendai were transformed into landscapes of debris and destruction. The human toll was staggering. The Tohoku tsunami claimed the lives of over 15,000 people, injured countless others, and left hundreds of thousands homeless. Scars of loss and trauma echoed throughout the affected regions. But the tsunami's impact wasn't just confined to the shoreline. In a cruel twist of fate, the colossal waves breached the defenses of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, triggering a nuclear crisis that added another layer of complexity to the ongoing disaster. When living in coastal cities, it's essential to be aware of tsunami evacuation routes, practice drills, and have emergency supplies ready. Now, our journey takes us back to October 9th, 1963, to the region of northern Italy. This is the only entry on our list that didn't happen at sea, but that doesn't make it any less devastating. The Viant Dam, a towering structure nestled in the scenic Piave Valley, held back the waters of the Viant River, creating a vast reservoir. On that fateful autumn day, a massive landslide crashed into the Viant Dam. The impact unleashed a colossal wave that surged over the dam and into the valley below. Initially estimated at around 250 meters high, the tsunami rushed down onto the unsuspecting communities along the Piave Valley. Entire villages were obliterated in an instant. Buildings and infrastructure were reduced to rubble. Lessons learned from this tragedy contributed to advancements in dam design, risk assessment, and the importance of thorough geological studies before constructing such ambitious projects. If you live near a dam, stay informed about its safety measures and have an evacuation plan in place. Our final stop takes us to 1958 and the awe-inspiring Lituya Bay tsunami. Lituya Bay, nestled between the towering mountains and icy glaciers of Alaska, was the stage for a seismic spectacle that defied expectations. The trigger for the Lituya Bay tsunami was a massive landslide originating high on the flanks of the Fairweather mountain range. The landslide cascaded into the bay, displacing an immense volume of water and birthed a wave of unprecedented proportions. The tsunami surged over the headland at the entrance of Lituya Bay, reaching an astonishing height of approximately 524 meters. This colossal wave ripped the trees from the mountainside, leaving a visible scar. Astonishingly, 2 boats anchored in the bay at the time managed to ride the crest of the wave and survive. The eyewitness accounts of the fishermen aboard those vessels provide a rare perspective on the terrifying beauty of the natural disaster. With its record-breaking height, Lituya Bay stands as a unique phenomenon in the study of tsunamis. It blew away any preconceived notion about how high a tsunami wave could get. And it was a reminder that these huge waves aren't always generated at the bottom of the ocean. These stories we've uncovered remind us of the incredible spirit of humanity in the face of adversity.
On May 22nd, 1960, off the coast of Valdivia, Chile, residents experienced the strongest earthquake in recorded history. With a staggering magnitude of 9.5, this earth-shattering behemoth left over 1,600 people dead and 2 million displaced. But the devastation didn't stop there. A massive tsunami raced across the ocean for miles, tearing through the shores of New Zealand, Australia, Hawaii, and Japan. Now, nearly 70 years later, scientists believe that we are inching perilously close to an even greater threat, and they're calling it the Big One.
You're kidding, right?
The Cascadia fault line, stretching from California to Canada's Vancouver Island, is a ticking time bomb with potential for massive devastation. According to seismologist Chris Goldfinger, the odds of a Cascadia megaquake happening in the next 50 years is 1 in 3. If that happens, it will be like witnessing the real-life equivalent of a kid's tantrum on a Lego set. Buildings collapsing, tsunamis up to 20 feet high, landslides destroying entire communities, and a humanitarian crisis that could last over a decade. What clues have we found that the Cascadia megaquake has happened in the past? How are cities like Vancouver preparing for this disaster? And how much time would West Coasters have to evacuate? A megaquake sounds a little dramatic, but it's more than a flashy name. It signifies the level of destruction these earthquakes can unleash. But what could cause Earth's tectonic plates to snap so violently? Well, the answer lies in the aptly named geological hotspot called the Ring of Fire. Seismologists, scientists who study earthquakes, have found a large area in the Pacific Ocean where several tectonic plates meet and slide underneath each other, creating zones of intense geological activity near the surrounding continents. Most of Earth's volcanoes are within the ring, hence its name. And about 90% of the world's earthquakes occur here, including the worst kind, megaquakes. Megaquakes, or megathrust earthquakes, happen at convergent plate boundaries. This is where 2 tectonic plates meet, and one begins to slide under the other. At a point, the descending plate is stuck due to displacement, building friction and pressure. Once it budges, we get a megaquake. This process is called subduction. Picture yourself trying to pull up a stubborn zipper on a hoodie. You struggle, tugging at it with all your might. Finally, the zipper shoots up, only to smack you in the chin. That's what this earthquake is like. Only this time, the zipper is the tectonic plates shifting below, and instead of a mere inconvenience, the result is the worst possible earthquake in history. This brings us to the Cascadia subduction zone, which lies off North America's west coast, spanning from California up to Vancouver Island, over 600 miles long. But the devastation would affect more than just the west coast of North America. A megaquake like this could create one of the largest tsunamis the world has ever seen. We're talking anywhere between 20 to 100 feet high. And these waves could travel for hundreds of miles to other parts of the world. But we'll plunge into more about that later. So why is it considered a ticking time bomb that scientists are calling the big one? Unlike more active regions, Cascadia has stayed eerily quiet for too long. We're talking 300 plus years. In that time, it's been steadily building pressure beneath the surface. Experts believe that when Cascadia finally does shift, the resulting megaquake could reach a magnitude of 9 or higher, quite possibly far surpassing the strongest earthquake ever recorded in Chile that we mentioned earlier. So what happened during the era when the Cascadia wasn't quiet? To find out, let's go back to January 26th, 1700, the last time historians believed there was a megaquake along the Cascadia fault line. In the Pacific Northwest, the Coichan tribes spoke of a legendary battle between Thunderbird and Whale, two deities depicted in their artwork and totem poles. Other tribes on Vancouver Island have their own folklore surrounding a great event that disrupted the island's soil, wiped out entire villages, and altered the landscape forever. Over 4,000 miles away, Japanese records describe a massive tsunami around the same time. Researchers believe these towering waves were 75 feet high. Seismologists managed to connect the evidence back to a single, powerful origin: Cascadia. They came to an unsettling conclusion that earthquakes along the Cascadia fault line are bound to happen every 246 years on average. That means we are due for Cascadia's next megaquake in the next few decades. Or within the next few minutes. Just a tremor. In fact, geologists estimate that there have been 40 major earthquakes in the Cascadia subduction zone over the last 10,000 years. And now we arrive at today. If we know this threat is coming, what can we do to prepare? If you're enjoying the show and want to survive all the dangers life throws at you, make sure to like and subscribe. And let us know what you would do in this scenario in the comments below. Sorry guys, only room for one person in this bunker. The big one isn't just a one-time task. It's a continuous process of planning, learning, and preparing. Get your hands on useful resources, as every step could make a difference. Thanks to advances in earthquake technology, we have the Shake Alert, a tool designed to detect early tremors of an earthquake and send alerts to those in the affected area to brace for impact or evacuate. While it will not prevent an earthquake, it is nice to have a little heads up before things start to literally go down. These crucial seconds can make all the difference as folks get more time to take cover, businesses can shut down operations, and cities can coordinate protocols for the incoming destruction. Take Vancouver, for example. With a population of nearly 700,000 within the city, it's a high-risk zone for a catastrophe. In response to a potential megaquake, the city has been working to reinforce dated infrastructure and train emergency response teams to limit casualties. If you ever go sightseeing there, you might notice some buildings with specialized shock absorbers and cross-bracing structures. These enhancements reduce swaying during a quake. The city also has some emergency routes designed with evacuations in mind. So what can you do to prepare? To secure your home, start by anchoring heavy furniture, water heaters, and propane tanks to prevent them from tipping over. This small act might be a potential lifesaver. You'll want to prepare a grab-and-go kit along with a home emergency kit. These will be essential during the quake and its aftermath. Aim to store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. This should be enough for 2 to 4 weeks, and you should have a similar amount of non-perishable food available. Assemble a basic first aid kit. If possible, secure an additional 1 to 3 months supply of necessary medications. Without power, consider alternative methods of collecting information, like an NOAA weather radio. Keep extra cell phones charged and have a landline phone as a backup. In the absence of basic services, sanitation systems like portable chemical toilets can come in handy. Practice living off emergency supplies for a weekend. This will help you identify gaps and mentally prepare for new challenges that arise. you might want to consider connecting with your neighbors to share resources and skills. Engage with your community emergency response team and take first aid classes along with CPR training. With this, you'll ensure that people are there for one another when it matters most. Sadly though, that's just the first chapter of a long road to recovery. It's a normal day along the Pacific Northwest coast when suddenly a faint yet unmistakable vibration begins to pulse through the ground. These initial tremors, better known as compressional waves, or P waves, are the first indicators of a massive earthquake brewing. Compressional waves move faster than other seismic waves, creating a push and pull effect on the ground in a back and forth motion.
Something funny going on here.
Systems like the Shake Alert catch these P waves, sending advanced notice moments before the main shock hits, creating a window of opportunity to take cover. You might notice birds flying away in droves, and dogs across the affected area may start barking. Animals have sensitive hearing, and some can pick up on P waves before humans notice. Their agitation serves as an eerie, crucial warning as the quake's energy begins to surge and ripple through the terrain. Then comes the surface waves, the real stuff you need to worry about. Unlike P waves, surface waves are much slower and pack a devastating punch. They are a formidable force of nature that move in a rolling motion, lifting and shifting the ground. The violent shaking in this scenario would likely knock down transformers and power lines. Without electricity, homes and businesses will need to rely on emergency lighting, if any, to navigate the impending catastrophe. I hope you packed a flashlight and plenty of batteries in your go bag. Everything left unsecured inside buildings, such as bookshelves, lamps, and computers, will be sent flying, turning rooms into a deadly hailstorm of falling debris. The gas lines could erupt, sparking fires that would be impossible to control given the damage to infrastructure. Older buildings, especially those constructed before seismic codes in the 1970s, will be the first to collapse. FEMA estimates around 1 million structures will either collapse or be severely compromised. That includes schools, highway bridges, and 2/3 of the railways and airports in the area. Essential services would be hit especially hard. 618,000 buildings, 2,000 schools, and 100 hospitals are expected to suffer moderate to complete damage according to a 2022 report by FEMA. As if that weren't enough, thousands of landslides would follow. Oregon projects over 10,000 fatalities in the region, with millions in need of shelter and supplies. Emergency services would be pushed beyond the brink, with shelter needed for over 1 million displaced people, plus food and water for another 2.5 million. By now, you know it doesn't end here.
Earthquakes cause tsunamis.
Yeah.
The Pacific Northwest is only the nexus for this intercontinental event. Large earthquakes trigger tsunamis that travel vast distances across oceans, affecting regions thousands of miles away. Even countries outside the Ring of Fire aren't safe from tsunamis. The 2004 Boxing Day tsunami reached over 1,800 miles from Indonesia all the way to East Africa. A megathrust earthquake off the Cascadia subduction zone will create monstrous waves that could race across entire oceans. Residents along the Pacific coast will be the first to face the mega tsunami. This colossal wave, triggered by the earthquake's force, would barrel towards the shore with destructive energy, one that threatens to obliterate everything in its path. Emergency protocols along the coast are designed for rapid evacuation. When a significant quake hits, residents in coastal communities are trained to immediately head for higher ground. Depending on your location, find out if there's a tsunami evacuation tower close by, and plan a day to figure out a fast route to its location. These evacuation plans focus on getting people out of what's known as the inundation zone, low-lying coastal areas most vulnerable to flooding. Insights from The New Yorker warn that the inundation zone will likely be scoured of structures from California to Canada, so expect buildings, roads, and landmarks to be wiped away by the force of the tsunami. For those in this zone, the warning message is stark. When that tsunami is coming, you run, says Jay Wilson, chair of the Oregon Seismic Safety Policy Advisory Commission, also known as OSPAC. While movies often depict tsunamis as singular, towering waves, the reality is actually worse. It will be the whole ocean elevated, overtaking land. As it surges inland, it will carry an immense amount of debris. boats, cars, cinder blocks, and anything else in its path. Even Lieutenant Dan will have a hard time making it through this storm. Survival tips are crucial and straightforward. If you're near the coast when the quake hits, drop to the ground, take cover under something sturdy, and hold on tight. Run to higher ground immediately after the quake, but be wary of the aftershock period. This is when smaller quakes can occur. Don't wait for official alerts if you're in a tsunami-prone area. Act fast. Have an evacuation routine memorized and use it to get out of the inundation zone quickly. Surviving is a start, but the hardest part will come afterwards, with the painstaking task of rebuilding and rescuing survivors. As for the rest of the world, the waves of the tsunami would rush further west and likely devastate the shorelines of Japan first. We could see destruction on a similar scale to the Tohoku earthquake of 2011. With millions struggling, people will resort to desperate measures. Emergency officials have prepared estimates for what post-quake recovery might look like, and the timeline is daunting. OSPAC estimates it could take well over a year before basic infrastructure is fully restored. For survivors, the first hurdle would be access to clean drinking water and food. In addition to non-perishable foods, residents may need to find community relief resources. This will be especially tough given the expected damage to roads. Purify water with filters, tablets, or by boiling it. Store as much potable water as possible before the disaster. And secure emergency medical kits to treat injuries. Looking at recent disasters helps paint a realistic picture of what's ahead. After the 2011 Fukushima earthquake and tsunami, parts of Japan are still uninhabitable due to radiation from a nuclear power plant destroyed by the tsunami. In Chile, the 2010 earthquake left parts of the country dealing with repairs that spanned nearly a decade. Recovery from this catastrophe could follow a similar trajectory, with decades spent rebuilding. Survivors will face both physical and emotional challenges, with long-term effects on communities. It will be crucial to find resilience in the face of this unimaginable hardship. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake isn't a matter of if, but when. For anyone living near the fault line, it is critical to start preparing now. Keep gloves, a pair of sturdy shoes, and a trusty flashlight within easy reach to help you navigate safely through the debris after a quake. Understanding and integrating earthquake safety into your lifestyle could be the difference between life and death.
The Assam-Tibet earthquake of 1950 stands as the most powerful earthquake ever recorded on land, with a magnitude of 8.6 on the moment magnitude scale. Its epicenter was the rugged terrain of the Mishmi Hills in northeastern India, where the collision of the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate unleashed seismic fury. In Tibet, the earthquake triggered colossal landslides and extensive land cracks, dragging entire villages into rivers. India didn't fare any better. Landslides and collapse of natural dams obliterated 70 villages. Approximately 1,500 people died in India, while Tibet's death toll was over 3,300. And this is the mildest of the tremors we'll see today. That's right, we're taking a seismic journey through history to explore some of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. But before we dive in, let's get the basics straight. Earthquakes occur when there's a release of energy within the Earth's crust, usually caused by the movement of tectonic plates along the fault lines. This movement generates seismic waves that spread throughout the planet, causing the ground to shake. Today, we'll see how these powerful vibrations can destroy entire cities and reshape the geography of the planet. Which earthquake generated the deadliest tsunami in history? And why didn't Earth's most powerful earthquake kill many people? Those answers in a minute, but first, let's make a stop in North America. In 1965, an 8.7 magnitude earthquake originating from Rat Island triggered a massive tsunami, with waves exceeding 10 meters tall landing on Shemya Island, located 304 kilometers away. Part of the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, Rat Island earned its name when rats from a shipwreck arrived in 1780 and invaded the place. The rats were exterminated in 2008, and the island is now called Hiawatha. The islands are located on the boundary between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates, which makes it susceptible to seismic activity. Fortunately, since there are very few people living in this area, the damage and casualties from this powerful earthquake were relatively minor. Okay, moving on to 2010, we arrive in Chile, where an 8.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the coast of the center of the country near the city of Concepcion. Lasting approximately 3 minutes, the seismic event caused widespread devastation, with buildings collapsing in several cities. The quake's intensity was felt across vast distances, reaching as far as Sao Paulo, Brazil, 4,620 kilometers away. Waves as high as 15 meters inundated the Chilean town of Constitucion, accounting for around 150 of the 525-person death toll. Tsunami warnings were issued in 53 countries, initiating preventative measures worldwide. But thankfully, the waves lost strength before reaching the coasts of California, Hawaii, New Zealand, and Japan. Chile has a long, tumultuous history with earthquakes, and this is not the last time you'll see it on the list. Do earthquakes make you nervous? Well, hit that subscribe button to get survival tips that'll keep you rock steady. Now, let's venture into the remote wilderness of Kamchatka, Russia, confronting the seismic fury of November 5th, 1952. With a magnitude of 9.0, this earthquake rocked the remote region of Severokurilsk, situated on the Kuril Islands. Residents were alerted of a tsunami risk, prompting them to seek safety on higher ground. However, many returned home after the initial wave, mistakenly assuming the danger had passed. Unfortunately, the town was hit by a second, more destructive wave that caused even more devastation. Over 2,000 people died as a result of the tsunami, nearly half the town's population. Moving southwest, we continue with the Tohoku earthquake, the largest ever recorded in Japan, reaching a magnitude of 9.1. It struck on March 11, 2011. Approximately 72 kilometers off the northeast coast of Honshu, Japan's largest island. The earthquake's immense power shifted Earth's axis by an estimated 10 to 25 centimeters, while Honshu itself moved 2.4 meters eastward, and the accompanying tsunami wave was equally devastating. When installing seawall protection around Honshu, planners hadn't anticipated the possibility of towering waves exceeding 40 meters. Just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, the waves crashed into the Fukushima nuclear power plant, triggering a meltdown and the release of toxic nuclear waste. The disaster killed over 22,000 people. But as horrible as it was, our next earthquake was 10 times deadlier. The massive 9.1 to 9.3 magnitude earthquake that struck Sumatra, Indonesia in December 2004 was centuries in the making. The Burma microplate overrode the India tectonic plate in a geological process called subduction. The earthquake caused an astonishing uplift of over 20 meters on the ocean floor. The resulting tsunami wave, reaching over 30 meters in height, devastated coastal areas in 14 countries. This natural calamity resulted in the death of around 228,000 people, with Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand experiencing the majority of the fatalities. It continues to hold the record as the most potent earthquake documented in Asia, and is regarded as the most catastrophic natural disaster of the 21st century. The disaster highlighted the need for improved early warning systems and disaster preparedness measures in vulnerable coastal communities. This next one is the second largest earthquake ever recorded. The Great Alaska Earthquake struck on March 27, 1964, with a magnitude of 9.2 and lasted almost 5 minutes. It occurred on the fault line where the Pacific Plate is subducting beneath the North American Plate, known as the Alaska Aleutian Subduction Zone. Anchorage, the biggest city in Alaska, only 121 kilometers away from where the earthquake started, got hit the hardest. Many buildings in the downtown area were wrecked, and the roads and sidewalks sank into oblivion. The resulting tsunamis caused widespread damage along the Pacific coast of North America, with waves reaching California and as far as Hawaii. In total, the earthquake and its aftermath claimed the lives of 139 people, making it one of the deadliest earthquakes in U.S. history. Our journey ends in Valdivia, Chile, on May 22, 1960, where the most powerful earthquake ever recorded rocked the planet with a magnitude of 9.5. The 10-minute quake caused several landslides across Chile's coast and rural areas, blocking roads and making it hard for rescuers to help. After the earthquake, 25-meter waves smashed into coastal cities, making the destruction even worse. Hours later, tall waves would also hit Hawaii, Japan, and the Philippines, killing hundreds of people. Despite the scale of the disaster, Chilean citizens were alerted to the impending danger by powerful foreshocks, which helped them prepare for the worst. Still, around 5,700 people died that fateful day. The extreme power of the big earthquakes and tsunamis we saw today has prompted scientists to develop new safety measures. From improved early warning systems to enhanced building codes and evacuation protocols, these advancements have helped communities worldwide better prepare for future seismic events. It's always good to be prepared, especially if you live in geographically unstable areas or coastal cities. Today, we're comparing the scale of the largest tornadoes ever to carve their way across Earth, including one that caused nearly $1 billion in damage, and another that injured more than 150 people in minutes. In 2016, during a significant tornado event that ravaged the United States High Plains, the central Midwest, and parts of the Ohio Valley, over 57 tornadoes touched down, the largest of them being May 9th's high-end EF3 wedge tornado, which spawned north of Davis, Oklahoma. This tornado measured over 1.5 miles wide and caused over $4 million in damage. Thankfully, there were no fatalities. And this wasn't the only notable tornado that day. A massive multiple vortex tornado with a path nearly 1.8 miles wide passed near the town of Boswell, Oklahoma, causing $3 million in damage. Unfortunately, this one did manage to injure 2 people. Thankfully, both survived. For many people in the United States, tornado season is an unfortunate reality. On the fateful morning of May 23, 2008, 173 tornadoes touched down across the central United States and parts of Canada. In central Kansas, a 1.8-mile-wide tornado ripped through Clark County. This massive wedge tornado snapped power poles, destroyed 2 houses, and several barns. In one of those barns was a man taking shelter. He was injured when the tornado completely destroyed the barn. Next up is the 1.8-mile-wide tornado that touched down in Linden, Texas. This long-track multi-vortex tornado occurred on April 29, 2016, and caused $375,000 in damage. Fortunately, despite its massive size, most of the damage wasn't to man-made structures but to trees. 2 people were injured, but thankfully there were no fatalities. Next, we have the Moshannon Forest tornado, the largest tornado that touched down during a tornado event on May 31, 1985 in Pennsylvania. The event saw 43 tornadoes touch down. It was the deadliest tornado event of the 1980s. 89 people were killed, over 1,000 were injured, and it dealt more than $600 million in property damage. Shockingly, the Moshannon Forest tornado, the biggest of them all, measuring 1.8 miles wide, injured just 1 person and caused 0 fatalities. Next up is Wisconsin's colossal 2008 Partyville and Cambria Strong tornado. This multi-vortex tornado measured 2 miles wide and caused severe damage. 214 buildings were damaged, 2 were completely destroyed, and tens of thousands of trees were uprooted or chewed. Altogether, the damages totaled $2.5 million. Next, we have the Greensburg, Kansas tornado from May 4th, 2007. But not the main tornado from that event. Just north of the town, after the main Greensburg tornado had dissipated, another tornado began to develop. This record-breaking tornado grew to 2.2 miles in diameter and, at the time, was the second largest tornado ever. This tornado managed to destroy 2 farms and tossed a combine a quarter of a mile away, smashing it to pieces. Trees, power lines, and farm machinery in its path were decimated. Some of the trees were stripped of their bark. The tornado injured one person before it dissipated, but fortunately, despite its size, no one was killed. Our next largest tornado is relatively recent. Measuring 2.25 miles wide, this tornado was part of the 2020 Easter tornado outbreak. This deadly tornado event happened on April 12th and 13th of 2020 when 141 tornadoes bombarded the southeastern United States. 6 minutes after the first EF4 tornado lifted southwest of the town of Bassfield, the same supercell thunderstorm parent produced another violent, long-tracked wedge tornado that touched down just southwest of the town in Jefferson Davis County, Mississippi. Tragically, this tornado took the lives of 8 people and injured 99 more during its 76-minute rampage. If you want to see these terrifying tornadoes up close, then check out our video, Epic Tornadoes Caught on Camera. We collected the most epic tornadoes ever caught on camera. And subscribe to our channel for more content about fire tornadoes, twin tornadoes, and survival tips for just about any scenario you can imagine. Okay, now let's leave America for a moment because our next tornado is the Jiangsu tornado, a 2.5 mile wide tornado that touched down in the Jiangsu province of China on June 23, 2016. This tornado was devastating. It killed 98 people and injured 846 more. Not to mention the catastrophic damage left in its wake, which amounted to over $760 million. Okay, back to America, specifically Hallam, Nebraska. On May 22, 2004, a monstrous 2.5 mile wide tornado touched down and devastated the town for 80 long minutes. The second largest tornado ever, and at one point the record holder for largest tornado on record, this tornado killed 1 person, injured 38, and caused over $160 million in damage. And finally, we've come to the largest tornado on record. Measuring 2.6 miles wide, the El Reno, Oklahoma tornado. This infamous tornado touched down on May 31, 2013, and stunned storm chasers and meteorologists alike as they watched in horror. Its enormous size proved too much for even experienced storm chasers. It took the lives of several of them. Overall, it totaled 8 fatalities and 151 injuries during its 40-minute lifespan. Weather systems like this are incredibly dangerous and unpredictable, and taking special precautions is important when you're caught in their path. Make sure to stay away from windows and, if you can, shelter under something sturdy. The Florida Keys Labor Day hurricane of 1935 is remembered as one of the most intense storms in U.S. history. This was a Category 5 hurricane, striking with winds that reached speeds of 185 miles per hour. The storm originated in the Bahamas, then moved west, reaching its most powerful moments just before making landfall in the Florida Keys. Its strong winds destroyed entire communities and killed 408 people, many of whom were World War I veterans working on construction of the overseas highway. In addition to the loss of life, the hurricane caused an estimated $6 million in property damage, the equivalent of approximately $135 million today. The tropical cyclone began to lose strength as it moved along the west coast of Florida, reaching as far as Norfolk, Virginia, before it finally dissipated over the Atlantic Ocean. If you think this is terrifying, well, it only gets worse from here. Today, we're comparing sizes of the deadliest hurricanes ever recorded. We'll take a look at their paths, wind speeds, and the destruction they left behind. But before we continue with the list, let's go over some basics. Hurricanes are powerful tropical storms that form over warm ocean waters. They begin as tropical disturbances, which are areas of low pressure and thunderstorms. Now, when these disturbances come up against high humidity and relatively light winds, they can intensify into tropical depressions and then tropical storms. If their wind speeds reach 75 miles per hour, the storm gets classified as a hurricane. Now, the term hurricane is used in the North Atlantic, the central North Pacific, and eastern North Pacific. In other parts of the world, they're called typhoons or just tropical cyclones. These storms are measured using the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale, which categorizes storms on a scale of 1 to 5 based on their sustained wind speeds. Which was the deadliest hurricane in U.S. history? And what should you do to survive one? Well, we'll get to that in a minute, so keep watching and hit that subscribe button to get survival tips for this and many other dangerous scenarios. Okay, let's continue our list with the New England hurricane of 1938, also known as the Long Island Express. This one started over the Atlantic Ocean, likely reaching Category 5 strength as it hit Puerto Rico. By the time it made landfall in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, it had weakened to a Category 3 hurricane with wind speeds between 112 and 129 miles per hour. The storm's heavy rainfall led to significant flooding of the Connecticut River and storm surges in Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island, and Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts. The widespread devastation across the northeastern United States caused approximately 600 deaths and inflicted over $300 million in property damage. Next up is the Sea Islands hurricane of 1893. A Category 3 storm that caused chaos along the southeastern U.S. coast, with winds reaching 120 miles per hour. Formed over the Atlantic, it moved west toward the Lesser Antilles before heading north through the Bahamas and striking the Sea Islands of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. This hurricane was devastating, killing an estimated 1,000 to 2,000 people and causing $1 million in property damage, which was a lot of money back in 1893, about $35 million in today's dollars. The hurricane's impact hit hardest in Beaufort County, South Carolina, where buildings were destroyed and roads and bridges were washed away. Huge areas of farmland were left unusable from all the flooding and saltwater damage. The storm also caused a population decline as people left the area in search of better opportunities elsewhere. Moving on, we have the Chenier-Caminada hurricane of October 1893, a Category 4 storm carrying winds of 130 miles per hour. This hurricane's path of destruction was far-reaching, affecting approximately 500 miles of coastline. It formed in the Caribbean Sea and took a destructive path northwest toward the Gulf of Mexico, ultimately making landfall in Chenier-Caminada, Louisiana. The small fishing village was virtually wiped off the map as the hurricane caused $5 million in property damage. Mississippi also experienced significant damage. Crops were flattened and fields flooded in coastal towns and cities. The final death toll was approximately 2,000 people. About a third of these deaths happened in Chenier-Caminada. This makes it the second deadliest storm in Louisiana history, surpassed only by our next entry. Hurricane Katrina, which struck in September 2005, reached Category 5 with wind speeds exceeding 175 miles per hour. Katrina resulted in 1,836 deaths and caused an unprecedented $125 billion in damage. It's the most costly hurricane ever to hit the United States. Its journey began in the Caribbean Sea, making its first landfall in South Florida. Then it moved into the Gulf of Mexico, where it intensified significantly. When Katrina made its second landfall near Buras, Louisiana, it unleashed its full fury on the Gulf Coast. But it was in New Orleans where Katrina was particularly devastating. The city's complex system of levees designed to protect against flooding failed catastrophically in multiple locations. As a result, approximately 80% of New Orleans was submerged under floodwaters, some areas experiencing depths of up to 15 feet. Entire communities were uprooted, and many residents who evacuated never returned. This meant a decrease of over 250,000 people after Katrina. That's over half of the city's population. It took 3 weeks for New Orleans to dry out, and the reconstruction would take years. Okay, going back to 1928, we encounter the San Felipe Okeechobee hurricane, a Category 5 storm with wind speeds reaching 160 miles per hour. It killed at least 2,500 people in the U.S. and caused $75 million in property damage. The hurricane's origins can be traced back to the Atlantic, making landfall in the Leeward Islands before moving toward Puerto Rico, with many fatalities resulting from collapsed buildings and flying debris. The hurricane continued northwest, making landfall near West Palm Beach, Florida. However, it was the area around Lake Okeechobee that suffered the most severe consequences. Storm surges reached up to 9 feet high, sweeping away homes, crops, and livestock. Many of the fatalities occurred in the communities surrounding the lake, where the floodwaters rose rapidly, catching residents off guard. The destructive path continued through North Carolina before moving into the Great Lakes region, where it finally dissipated. This next one is the most recent on our list. Well, at least in terms of the deadliest hurricanes. While Hurricane Beryl just wreaked havoc in the Caribbean, it's nowhere near as deadly as Hurricane Maria was back in September of 2017. This Category 5 storm with wind speeds reaching 175 miles per hour resulted in 3,059 deaths and caused an estimated $90 billion in property damage. The storm first made landfall in Dominica, where its powerful winds and heavy rains obliterated buildings, uprooted trees, and led to widespread flooding. Maria then whooshed its way over to Puerto Rico as a Category 4 hurricane, bringing winds of 150 miles per hour and 23 inches of rain. The island's power grid was completely devastated, leading to one of the longest blackouts in U.S. history. The lack of electricity had a cascading effect, disrupting water supplies, healthcare services, and communication systems. The hurricane continued north, striking North Carolina and Newfoundland before dissipating in the Atlantic. Topping the list and standing as the deadliest weather disaster in U.S. history is the Galveston hurricane of 1900. This Category 4 hurricane, with wind speeds reaching 145 miles per hour, killed approximately 8,000 people and caused roughly $30 million in property damage, which was a lot at the time. After traveling across the Atlantic Ocean and hitting the Gulf of Mexico, the hurricane made landfall on Galveston. The city, located on a barrier island off the Texas coast, wasn't prepared for such destructive power. The storm surge overwhelmed the low-lying island, sweeping away buildings, homes, and infrastructure. Entire neighborhoods were obliterated, and thousands of residents were caught in the raging floodwaters. Many of the victims drowned or were crushed by collapsing buildings. The once thriving port city, which had been a major economic hub, faced years of rebuilding and economic hardship. The city took measures to mitigate future risks, including raising the level of the entire city and constructing a seawall to protect against storm surges. When a hurricane is forecasted, it's crucial to seek sturdy shelter or evacuate to a safer location. Ensure you have an emergency kit with essential supplies like flashlights and your important documents. Stay informed through reliable weather sources and pay attention to the evacuation orders or warnings issued by local authorities. Once the hurricane arrives, stay indoors and away from windows. Even after the eye of the storm passes, remain indoors until authorities declare it safe to go outside.
A supervolcano is like a regular volcano on steroids. If it erupts, it could kill 100,000 people in an instant and expel over 1,000 times more material than a regular volcano. It would send so much ash and dust into the atmosphere that it could make an entire continent uninhabitable. Oh, and then there are the toxic gases and landslides that come along with the eruption, but we'll get to those later. Here's how to survive a supervolcano. There are about 20 supervolcanoes on Earth, with one of the most famous being found in Yellowstone National Park in the United States. It's had 3 massive eruptions in the last 2 million years, and scientists suggest that the 4th could be right around the corner. So you better be ready if it or another geological monster like it decides to blow. Step 1. Recognize the signs. Once lava bursts out of the volcano, it'll destroy everything in its path. At the same time, tephra, the pieces of magma that get blasted into the air, can crush houses, cars, and block roads. You would need to put as much distance between you and the volcano before the destruction begins. Usually, volcanoes give off warning signs hours before an eruption. These can include temperature changes and earthquakes. Step 2. Turn off the air conditioning. While burning hot lava scorching everything around it sounds like the worst thing that can happen, you shouldn't underestimate the ash. Falling ash can turn into a thick pile 3 meters deep, even 1 kilometer away from the eruption. If you're within that range, you need to protect your respiratory system. Wear a face mask, preferably that N95 you still have lying around from the COVID pandemic. When you're finally safe from the lava flow, turn off your car. The ash can clog engines and stall vehicles. It might also be hot with windows rolled up, but don't use your AC or fans. That will only bring more ash into your car. Step 3. Prepare for the worst. Whether you live in an area at risk for a volcanic eruption or you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, you need to plan for the imminent danger ahead of you. Check social media for evacuation and shelter plans. You'll also need to see if there are protective measures in place against the ash. Fill a bag with non-perishable food and water for several days in case you're ordered to evacuate immediately. Take into consideration that emergency clinics might be overloaded after the eruption, so grab bandages, disinfectant wipes, and hand sanitizer to take care of basic cuts and bruises. Even that jar of honey in your cupboard can help heal wounds. Step 4. Stay indoors. Just in case the toxic gas and falling ash are keeping you from leaving the disaster zone, the eruption could also form lahars you need to watch out for. These are highly destructive landslides that can devastate large areas. If you found shelter, stay inside. Make sure you close all windows and doors. The most important thing to do is listen to local officials and experts. Never try to do anything that they warn you against. Step 5. Be ready for chaos. Just like any apocalyptic scenario, the aftermath of an eruption of a supervolcano like Yellowstone's would make finding food and water extremely difficult. Global temperatures could drop for years, destroying crops, killing animals, and wreaking havoc on water supplies. Even if you're stocked up on supplies, these will eventually run out. What would you do next? How could you stay alive without food or water? Here's a clue. You'll need to memorize the life-saving rules of 3 theory.
A volcano starts rumbling and suddenly erupts. But instead of seeing lava trickling down, you see a massive cloud of ash quickly coming towards you. This isn't just any regular volcano explosion. Instead, it's a pyroclastic flow. It can wipe out entire cities in minutes, killing thousands of people. And now, one is coming for you. Here's how to survive a pyroclastic flow. Every time a volcano erupts, there's a chance of a pyroclastic flow. It can happen when a volcano is damaged during an eruption or the lava shoots upwards and then collapses. When this happens, a massive avalanche of smoke comes tumbling down the volcano. It's made of ash, rocks, and poisonous gases that can move up to 700 kilometers per hour. I know, the odds of surviving this episode may seem impossible, but believe it or not, people have managed to survive a pyroclastic flow. What can you wear to help you survive? Where is the safest place to find shelter? And how have people survived this before? Number 1, evacuate as quickly as possible. If you're near an active volcano and you see a pyroclastic flow, you need to start moving immediately. Hop in your car and follow the evacuation instructions. A pyroclastic flow is a lot more dangerous than a lava flow since it can travel up to 100 kilometers away from its original position. So start driving fast if you want to survive this. Number 2, wear protection. You should still be driving your car at this point, but if the pyroclastic flow gets near you, you'll begin to feel the heat. These things can be as hot as 700 degrees. In order to help you survive this heat, you'll want to put on some protective gear. Luckily for you, the University of Missouri has been developing suits to withstand the heat of volcanoes. They use flame-resistant Kevlar and breathable fabric. Wearing this will help you withstand the incredibly hot temperatures. Number 3, seek shelter. If you can't get far enough away to avoid the flow, then you're going to need to find shelter. And we're not talking about a house or building. A pyroclastic flow can easily wipe those out. You'll want to find an underground bunker, cave, or even a parking garage if you can go down to a low enough floor. This is how a prisoner survived a pyroclastic flow in 1902. While an entire city was being burned, Ludger Silberus sat in an underground jail cell with bomb-proof walls. Days later, he was found underground with severe burns all over his body, but he managed to survive. Although this won't completely protect you from the heat and the gases, it's still your best strategy for staying alive. Number 4, wait in your shelter. While you're in your shelter, your first instinct may be to hop out quickly. After all, being inside this shelter will be incredibly hot, and there's a chance that ash can leak in, making it difficult to breathe. But if possible, try not to leave your shelter right away. If you think it's bad inside your shelter, imagine what it will be like outside. You can expect to find destroyed buildings, massive fires everywhere, and ash so thick you can barely see. And these are just a few of the things you'll have to worry about. Once a day or so passes, you should be able to leave your shelter safely. Number 5, seek medical attention. Congratulations, you didn't die, but that doesn't mean you're walking out of this unscathed. While you were in that bunker, you likely suffered severe burns all over your body due to the heat of the pyroclastic flow. Not only that, but you'll also experience breathing problems from inhaling the ash. As soon as you leave your bunker, you'll need to go to a hospital immediately. There, they can treat your burns and any other injuries you might have. And number 6, listen to instructions. Sure, you've managed to survive this scenario, but it wasn't without consequences. These burns and lung issues might last for the rest of your life. Is there a way to avoid all this? Well, listen to instructions if an active volcano is about to explode. Usually, we're pretty good at predicting these things and can make sure people are far enough away from the explosion so that no one gets injured. That way, you can still see the incredible sights without getting burned. You're out on the balcony, soaking up the stunning views of the valley's hills. All of a sudden, a violent storm starts to form. You notice the trees along the mountain swaying and falling in the wind. The collapsing forest quickly turns into an enormous wave of trees, dirt, and debris. Don't stand your ground. A landslide is destroying everything in sight. And this one's heading straight for you. Here's how to survive a landslide. A landslide is the movement of soil, rocks, or other types of debris down a slope. Landslides may not look as massive as earthquakes or tsunamis, but they can be just as devastating. About 4.8 million people were affected by landslides in the last 20 years. But not all landslides are the same. Rockfalls are barrages of loose rock that tumble down steep slopes. They can be caused by earthquakes and mining. Their size can range from teeny tiny pebbles to huge hulking boulders. Mudslides happen when dirt and debris become saturated with water. Mudslides are often caused by heavy rain or volcanic activity. They can be a slow, creeping sludge or a fast, all-consuming wave. Where should you go if you can't outrun a landslide? And what's your last resort if you do get swallowed up by one? Step 1. Prepare. Like in most natural disasters, you'll have the best chance of surviving if you prepare in advance. Have an emergency kit ready with food, water, flashlights, first aid supplies, and emergency blankets. You'll also want to create and practice an evacuation plan. Identify all the escape routes from your home and workplace. Choose a meeting spot in case you get separated from family and friends. You may only have minutes to get out of your home. Step 2. Pay attention. If you live by a mountain or hilly terrain, you could be at risk of a landslide, so listen up. Look for tilted trees, new holes, or bare spots along the hillside. Listen for sounds like rumbling or trees cracking. And pay attention, especially if the authorities are telling you to evacuate. If you think there's a risk of a landslide, don't even think about getting some shut-eye. Be on the alert and stay awake. Most landslide deaths occur when people are sleeping. But it's too late to run. The landslide is right outside your doorstep. Step 3. Get to higher ground. If you can see a landslide moving towards you, chances are you probably can't outrun it. Stay inside and move upstairs or onto higher ground. Then, hunker down underneath some sturdy furniture and wait it out. Getting to a higher spot can help you stay out of the path of the landslide. But what can you do if you're caught outside during a landslide? Don't hide behind a tree or anything unstable. Landslides can be strong enough to push them onto you. Find any possible structures you can hide in to protect you from the debris. Look, hide over there. You start running towards the building closest to you and... Uh-oh. Step 4. The last resort. With no shelter close by and nothing to climb on, your last resort is to brace yourself. If you have an emergency blanket, cover yourself with it to protect your body. Then, curl up in a ball, protect your head from debris, and avoid inhaling water. Luckily, if you are caught in a landslide, there's a chance you won't be buried completely. Once the flow stops, the dirt might be loose enough that you can dig yourself out. The dust has settled and the landslide has come to a halt. Congratulations, you survived a catastrophic landslide. Unfortunately, the landslide carried you all the way to the middle of a forest. What's that sound? The pipes in your basement creak and groan. The floor starts to tremble and shake. Cracks start to form and crawl up your walls. Is an earthquake happening? You drop down on the ground and crawl under a table. All of a sudden, the ground beneath you starts to slump and collapse. Before you have time to react, a giant sinkhole swallows everything in sight. Here's how to survive falling into a sinkhole. Sinkholes are craters in the ground that form when water dissolves the rock layer underneath the soil. Sinkholes can create small ponds or cause the ground to dip. In most cases, these sinkholes aren't dangerous since they form slowly. But you don't want to find yourself standing above a cover collapse sinkhole. They happen when there's a layer of clay between the surface and the bedrock. Water seeps in and slowly wears away the clay, creating a cavern. When that layer caves in, everything above it is swallowed into the earth. So, what can you do if you fall into a sinkhole? How much time would you have to react? And why might trying to climb out be a bad idea? Step 1. Look for warning signs. The best way to survive falling into a sinkhole is not to fall in one. Sinkholes tend to show plenty of warning signs before they start to become dangerous. Watch out for cracks in building foundations, walls, or sidewalks. Take a look outside as well. When a sinkhole forms, water will start pooling on the ground. Trees and fence posts will start to tilt or fall over. And vegetation might wilt and die due to the sinkhole draining away water. If you notice these signs, find out if you live in an area that's susceptible to sinkholes. Ask a geologist or soil engineer if your house is at risk. If it is, a professional can inject grout into the hole to reinforce the foundation. But what if you aren't able to see these signs until it's too late? Step 2. Brace yourself. By the time that cracks start rapidly appearing, you may only have seconds to get out before the ground collapses. If you do get caught in the sinkhole, brace for impact. The size of a sinkhole ranges from 1 meter to hundreds of meters in diameter and depth. Cover your head, tuck your knees with your legs together, and fall on your side, rolling backward. This is called the parachute landing fall. It evenly distributes the shock of impact across your body. The last thing you'd want to do is land flat on your back or head. Ouch! Okay, you've survived the impact, but now you're trapped deep in the sinkhole. What can you do from down here? Step 3. Find a safe spot. If you can, try to move towards the middle of the hole, but don't stretch out and relax. Anything above you could still fall. Stay low and small. See if there's anything you can grab onto. The ground around you is probably unstable and could sink even further. Wait until you're on steady ground and it's safe to move. Then you can start making your escape. Step 4. Assess the situation. Take a look at your surroundings. Is there any water filling the sinkhole? Do you have your cell phone to call for help? Is the hole small enough to climb out of? If the hole is too deep, you probably shouldn't try to climb out. There's a good chance that anything you climb onto is loose. Not only that, but climbing could cause more of the debris to fall from above. In this case, your best bet is to call for help and wait. Now, Your entire house might be destroyed, but luckily, you got out of this mess in one piece. Pay attention. Look for the signs of a sinkhole. If you do happen to fall into one, use the parachute landing fall. Find a safe spot and call for help. Don't try to climb out. You're fishing in a lake on a nice sunny day when suddenly you begin to smell rotten eggs. And before you know it, the lake explodes. Your boat starts rocking violently and you begin to feel dizzy. In the distance, you see a 20-meter-high wave coming towards you. Now you better get out of there before it's too late. Here's how to survive a Limnic eruption. A Limnic eruption is an incredibly rare and dangerous natural disaster. It happens when a lake sits near a pool of magma. Since the magma gives off carbon dioxide, it builds up underground over time. Eventually, the CO2 bubble bursts, creating a massive explosion in the lake. When this happens, carbon dioxide gases spread everywhere, and tsunami-like waves pop out of nowhere. Luckily, this has only happened a couple of times, but when it does, the results are devastating. In Cameroon, a Limnic eruption occurred in 1986, killing 2,000 people and wiping out entire communities. If you were near a lake during a Limnic eruption, how would you survive? How much damage can a Limnic eruption cause? How can your nose be your best chance for survival? And why can breathing be dangerous? Step 1. Smell. Before the lake erupts, pay attention to your nose. If you smell rotten eggs, that means an eruption could happen soon. Also, check to see if the water is warmer than usual. That's another sign of an imminent eruption. As this is happening, move away from the lake as quickly as possible. This will help you survive the initial blast. Step 2. Don't breathe. When the Limnic eruption occurs, hold your breath immediately. The magma chambers underneath this lake are erupting millions of cubic meters of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide can be fine at low concentrations, but high concentrations greater than 10% will occur from the eruption. If you start breathing it in, you'll quickly pass out and die. So, hold your breath for as long as you can. Step 3. Drive away. Now that you've survived the initial blast, it's time to get out of there. Don't run away on foot. Instead, get in a car and drive away. You'll want to move fast as both the water and the carbon dioxide will cover some serious ground. Anyone within a 25-kilometer radius of the eruption will either get hit by the tsunami-like wave or suffocate from the carbon dioxide. Step 4. Get to higher ground. When you begin to drive, immediately move towards higher ground. This is the quickest and safest way to avoid the aftermath of the eruption. You see, since carbon dioxide is denser than air, it will sink to the ground and breathable air will be pushed upwards. Not to mention, reaching higher ground will also help you avoid the rushing waters. Step 5. Call for help. You're on higher ground, but now you're trapped. Below you are carbon dioxide and rushing waters from the tsunami. You'll need to call for help and might be rescued by a boat or a helicopter, depending on how severe the eruption is. Now you can finally leave these treacherous conditions. Phew, that was a close one, but probably not as close as surviving a pyroclastic flow, right?
For the world above, When adventuring this far below the surface, you're beyond a weekend warrior. You're a modern-day explorer. But if the entrance caves in, you could just be another buried fossil. This is how to survive a cave collapse. From the jungles of Vietnam to the backwoods of Kentucky lie intricate underground cave systems that contain mysterious, undiscovered worlds. But no journey into the unknown comes with a guarantee you'll return safely. In 2018, a football team ventured 4 kilometers into the Tham Luang cave in Thailand. When a monsoon caused a flash flood, the team and their coach were stranded in this vast cave network for over 2 weeks. This group made it out alive. But if you were on the wrong side of a stone wall like this, could you climb out? How far will the temperature drop? And how long until you starve to death? With the known world documented so thoroughly, if you're looking to map new territory, you'd better look underground. Complex and ancient, cave systems attract experienced spelunkers and casual hikers from all over the world seeking to test their limits. Forged by erosion and time, it often takes up to 100,000 years for a cave to widen enough to let a human pass through. But it only takes a moment for the rock ceiling to collapse behind you. From 1980 to 2008, there were 81 reported fatalities from cavers in the United States. Follow these steps, and your chances of survival might increase. Step 1. Mark your trail. Most caves are formed from limestone, carved out by rainwater as it seeps through the soil, picking up traces of carbon dioxide along the way, eating away at the limestone over time. The carbonic acid creates a nexus of interconnected caverns with multiple points of entry to the surface. So while you may not be able to go back the way you came in, chances are good that you could find another way out. As you journey further into the cave, use bits of fabric, paper, or create rock piles to mark your location trail. Look for the high ground by searching for light or air currents, and keep an eye out for footprints, and maybe you'll find a way out. Step 2. Look for drinkable water. Even if you're carrying a portable water supply, it could take weeks to be rescued from a cave-in. But if you find a clean source, you can survive for over a month on drinking water alone. Look for drips of water coming from the ceiling of the cave. The rock in the soil above purifies the water on its way down, unlike the streams at your feet, whose water could be filled with contaminants. Avoid drinking from still water sources filled with algae, or drip pools near bat caves, or you could end up with diseases infecting your kidneys and liver. And if you happen to find a spring, drink directly from it. Step 3. Stay dry and keep warm. The temperature of the cave depends on its location. A cave in Canada might average around 21 degrees, while a cave in Thailand could be around 26 degrees. If your clothes get wet though, you could risk dying from hypothermia, as our bodies can only handle cold water temperatures under 16 degrees for up to 6 hours. Bring an extra pair of clothes so you can layer up and stay warm. When you need to rest, insulate yourself from the damp, cold cave floor and sleep above the ground to preserve your body heat. And if you build a fire, make sure it's near the entrance so the oxygen within the cave isn't burned up. Step 4. Conserve your energy. The Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky contains almost 600 kilometers of underground passages. If you get stuck in this maze, it could take some time before you get out. Move at a moderate pace as you search for the signs of an exit. If there's a choice between hiking for 10 minutes around an obstacle or climbing over it, choose the hike. Watch out for loose bedrock underfoot, and don't attempt to climb unstable rock walls, or you might be carried out on a stretcher if you're not buried first. Step 5. Make some noise. No matter how hard you scream, your voice won't be strong enough to reach the surface. Instead, attract rescuers by banging rocks together or against a stable wall. This noise will reach the rescue teams better than your shrill cries for help. Stay strong and follow these steps, and you might find the light at the end of this tunnel. So you walked out of the cave alive, but the rains that caused the collapse have intensified. The hills behind you begin to crumble. How are you going to survive this landslide? Brace yourself and learn here on the next How to Survive.